Hey, what's up everybody? My name is Chris Dale, and today I was thinking I could tell people about how to write a pen test report, or actually how to write a pen testing finding. So whenever we're doing pen testing, we want our findings to be as precise and as useful for our customers as well possible, as high quality and as applicable as possible, so our customers can take that finding and get their job done. And I want to give you some tips and tricks on how to get that done. So first of all, let's do a finding, shall we? So let's go to a website here. Let's go to this here. This is a lab on SQL injection, and we're going to access this lab over at the Portswigger Web Security Academy. And we're just basically going to find a finding that we're going to document in a report. All right. So here we have ways to view details on products. We can see that there's a product identifier down there that looks quite juicy. It has a magic number of 5, meaning there's a number 4 and 6 and so on. There's also the category filter here, which is vulnerable to SQL injection. So you might find this SQL injection by simply fuzzing it, using your fuzzing methodology, your attack methodology, and so on. But let's just jump straight onto the vulnerability here. Do a union select all, select null, dash dash, and see if we can get a error message. We do. Let's do another null here, and there is still an error message. Let's add another null here, and we're still getting error messages. Let's see, union null, we are forgetting a select here. Union null select, and there we go. So now it says, congratulations, you solved the lab. Essentially, we've found an SQL injection, okay? So this is not about finding an SQL injection. This video is how to document this SQL injection. Now, this here is something that is very, well, it is a very bad vulnerability, right? We don't want SQL injection in our environments. And even though some people tell you that SQL injection don't exist anymore, you can safely tell them they are wrong. SQL injection is very much around on the open internet today, internally in applications, externally in applications. I see it all the time. So anyone who tells you that SQL injection don't exist anymore, they are wrong and they are a newbie. Quote Chris on that. So here we can, for example, select a string in our SQL injection, and we can see that we have put that string in here. And ideally now the attacker would pivot into other tables and other databases to siphon out data into this field called test here now. We're not going to do that. Instead, we're going to document this finding. And basically, I want to show you my approach to documenting vulnerabilities. Now, lesson number 1, always document first. Don't hold this process off until the end of the engagement. You need to document this now. When you found the vulnerability, that is when you document that vulnerability, because if you don't, guess what? You're going to forget things, you're going to jump on the next vulnerability, you're going to have so much fun, but when the end comes, you're going to have to be stuck with all of the reporting, and you're going to have to go back to your notes. You might have other questions that might arise when you are typing in a vulnerability and then documenting it. And those questions you might not be able to answer anymore, maybe because you lost access to the environment. There are so many good reasons why you want to document right away and don't hold it off. So for my crew, for example, for my pen testers, I always tell them that there needs to be a very good exception for you to not document right away. So how do you document findings? Well, you can use Word, even though it really sucks to document vulnerabilities. It is what we have right now, okay? So I'm just gonna create a mock document here and show you what it's all about. So lesson number 1, you document once you have found a vulnerability. You document and you get it done, okay? You get it done. You complete the finding. You get it done. So first of all, every pen test report needs a front website, a front cover, I mean, where it says confidential, for example, and it says penetration testing results, for example, 2021-02-20. For example, we are just making things up here. Put that in the middle, put up your business logo and so on, and then put in a page break, and here we have the results, all right? So the first result that we're gonna document is gonna be the SQL injection, and we're gonna basically start documenting here. Now, the first thing I want to do when I document vulnerabilities is that I want to have a brief. I want to have a description, and I also want to have an applicable scenario for my customer. So there's a scenario, and there's also recommended fixes. All right. So first of all, let's put this into a heading number 2. Let's make the description heading number 2. Scenario heading number 2, recommended fixing heading number 2. SQL injection could actually be, why don't we put that in as a heading number 1. Now the description is typically something that I will have as a copy-pastable text that applies to most SQL injections. So in this case, why don't we just put in some pseudo text here, like something like let's go ahead and Google, like for example, SQL injection Wikipedia. Okay, I don't recommend you do this. I recommend that you tailor your reports. But just for this example today, I'm just gonna go grab some default text of Wikipedia here. So I'm gonna copy that in here. I'm gonna bring it into my report, and there's a description. And that gives, hopefully, my customer some insight into what does an SQL injection mean. I would also ideally like to include references. So references is where a client can study more. Any recommended resources that I have to them. For example, I might put in a link to, say, OWASP SQL injection. And I might recommend that my clients, if they want to study more, you can find a great article on SQL injection from OWASP here. And I'll give them more information, okay? Now the scenario is where I want to describe what actually takes place at my client. How does the SQL injection impact my client, okay? But before I start to, well, describe the scenario and include screenshots and so on, include recommended fixes and so on, I'm going to include some very important attributes to my finding. I'm going to include a CVS Score. Now, CVSS is the Common Vulnerability Scoring System, and it's, in my opinion, a very great way for penetration testers to look at vulnerabilities objectively. So we don't have to be subjective. That means we don't have to consider, is this a big deal because we didn't have to log in? Does this impact the data, which is very confidential? We don't have to be subjective. We can just use objective metrics, like you see on this website here, to make ourselves, to step away from our opinions about the vulnerability and let our customers have opinions on it, while we can basically just score the vulnerability to what we believe it is, okay? So the vulnerability was an SQL injection. So let's bring that one up here. So it was an SQL injection, and that is typically quite bad, okay? We're not going to fully exploit this, but I'm going to assume that we have a full breach of confidentiality here. So in my scoring calculator here, I'm going to set confidentiality to high. I'm going to set integrity to high, because I do believe I can manipulate data here potentially as well. And I'm going to set the availability to high as well. Why? Because I do believe that I might be able to change data. I might be able to change and manipulate it. I might be able to read all the data, and I might be able to impact and delete all of the data in the database. Notice that if you mouse over these attributes here, you will see that there's a description from the website. For example, confidentiality low is a description that says there is some loss of confidentiality, access to some restricted information is obtained, but the attacker does not have control over what information is obtained, or the amount or kind of loss is constrained. So that kind of gives you a way to understand, should this be, and also defend if this should be a high risk or a low risk or a none on the confidentiality term, okay? I'm also going to document, and I'm going to try to figure out if the scope changes or not. So what that means is that by exploiting this vulnerability, does that actually impact, say, other systems? Does it impact other users? Does it allow the attacker to, say, pivot and continue exploiting other resources based on what we have found in our finding? So I'm going to click changed. Why? Well, because, my friends, if I get access to all the data, I'm going to assume that there is user data in here as well. And user data contains usernames and passwords. And when I have usernames and passwords, I can jump into people's emails. I can do all kinds of interesting things when I have data here, okay? So that's my phone on mute for now. Now, next up is attack vector. Can I attack this from the internet? Do I need to be on a connected network, for example, Wi-Fi? Do I need to be on the local area network for this attack to take place? Then it would be adjacent. Do I need to be on the local system? So do I need to have actually like remote code execution on someone's host? Or do I need to be physically present at a terminal to compromise this vulnerability, to exploit the vulnerability? In my case, I can exploit it from the internet. I did not have to use a VPN to get access to this. I could just simply open up a website and there's the vulnerability. So that's why I select network. You can already see how this kind of scoring allows the pen tester to step back a little bit and just consider simple metrics on how critical the vulnerability is, okay? And as you will see soon, once I have selected all these values, you will see that I will get a score up here in the upper right corner. The attack complexity is trivial. It is very easy to hack this. It does not require any sophisticated skills. Anyone with some background in web application pen testing could find this vulnerability. That's why I set it to low. If it was really challenging to hack and exploit, I would set it to high. It did require me to log in, but anyone could make an account. Anyone could just simply create an account and start exploiting the vulnerability. So if I want to put it as none or low, it's up to you. But I'm going to put it at low here to basically simulate that I needed an account that someone would have to create for me, okay? But pretty much the Burp Suits Web Security Academy is more or less without authentication. Anyone can just register and it's as easy as that, okay? Did it require user interaction? So this question is regarding, do I need, as an attacker, do I need to wait for someone to do something for my exploit to work? Do I need to wait for someone to log in over a Wi-Fi network for me to capture credentials? Do I need to have someone click a link for a cross-site scripting attack to take place, for example? No! This attack is entirely dependent on me, the attacker. I don't have to wait for anyone or make anyone do nothing. That's why I select none, okay? And based on this, I get a critical vulnerability. The score is 9.9 and it's critical. I also get a little vector string here, which is a description of this vulnerability. I'm gonna put this into my report and you can decide how you wanna do this yourselves. I recommend that you make this beautiful, all right? You style this up, you make it so the client can look at this without hurting their eyes, okay? So you can put it into a beautiful little table perhaps, put some colors on it and so on. That's what I've done for my reports. If you are curious what other people are doing in their pen testing reports, there is a repository called Public Pen Testing Reports where a lot of people have committed and shared example penetration testing reports. So you can go into this repository here. You want to inspect Fox IT. You want to see how they've done a pen test report here. You can open up this PDF and you can take a look at it. Beautiful front cover page here. And this is actually, it looks like a threat intelligence report. There's an executive summary. There's colors. There's a table of contents and so on. So you can get all that knowledge by simply looking at other people's reports. Okay? Not a big deal. Now, next thing, we want to document the scenario that causes the actual vulnerability in this context for our client, okay? So perhaps I want to copy the URL that proves the proof of concept. So proof of concept, I might add a link here. I might add maybe a sample text here. For example, instead of it saying test, I would say, this describes SQL returning attacker supplied data, for example. So, oh, look at that, beautiful gateway timeout. I'm not sure why, but it doesn't matter. But basically, you would probably want to put in some data that allows your client to easily understand and see what you mean. I also like to bring in screenshots in my reports. So I'll put in a screenshot like this. I might add some shapes, for example. I might add a picture, a little arrow, excuse me, pointed at what I want my clients to see. I'll make it very bold. I might put the shape outline to be red, and I might even add a little caption. The image describes, shows how the attacker was able to do SQL injection in the application. Okay, so it's just an example. I don't want to spend a lot of time just making dummy text here, but what you would most likely do in a pen testing company, you would build up a repository of findings, and you would have all this default text here ready for you to apply and quickly adjust and use in your reports. But especially the scenario part here, you really want to make this scenario hit the nail on the head. You want to make this work. You want your client to read the scenario and understand immediately how this impacts their organization. How these scores are calculated, that should be shown and illustrated in the scenario here, okay? We also have recommended fixes. So I recommend that you write short-term fixes, patch and sanitize the SQL injection, for example. And you want to flesh these out. You want to make them beautiful. You want to make them applicable. You want to do knowledge transfer. Make your client as smart as possible. And then you have long-term fixes. For example, start code reviewing and ensuring a sanitization library is in use within the application. All right. So it is quite nice, this type of way of documenting your findings. You want to complete this now, okay? I want to repeat that fact. You want to make sure that you are done with this vulnerability when you move on to the next one. I want you to have this vulnerability now, SQL injection, and you want to be proud of it. It is more or less complete. There might be some typos in there. There might be some styling and formatting issues, but you don't have to go back to the application and do another pen test or try something else because it's already been done. You are done. Okay? So we also want to, ideally, within a report, we want to, not a cover page, let's create a blank page. You probably want to have a table of contents. And I do believe you can insert a table of contents somewhere up here. I don't see it right now, but there's a shortcut on how you can add a table of contents. And ideally also what you would want to have is an executive summary, okay? And I want to show you quickly how I write the executive summaries, because the executive summary is something that I write at the end of my mission. When I'm done with the pen test, that's when I sit down and I write the executive summary. But in order to avoid me forgetting something important for my clients, continuously, as I'm working the pen test, I will fill in small fractions into the executive summary. For example, SQL injection is pretty bad. Probably indicates that there is other and similar issues, and that the development process should be scrutinized more to prevent such flaws in the future. All right? Saw signs of bad practice in error handling. So I'll just put in small pieces of information, and when I'm ready to write the executive summary report, I will take these points here and I will write it into my target audience. I will write it with the most important facts at the top, and then I will flesh out with details below, okay? So that is quite useful, and you want to start with the most important things first because you want to capture people's attention and make them understand and read what actually matters. And once they have been captivated and they are studying and reading your report, maybe then you want to get into, well, more details beneath that are not necessarily that important. But start with the most important things here in executive summary. Of course, in executive summaries, you want to sum up the pen test. You want to put in which dates it happened between and so on. But I'm not going to show you that now. Additionally, within a pen test report, I recommend that you add a section called, page break here, a section called Appendix. Because the appendix is super useful. In the appendix, I will put in all the noisy, all the not so pretty data. The data that I want to include, I might even want to reference it when I'm presenting the report to my clients, but I don't want to have all that data polluting my findings up here. I'll just instead, for example, say, see appendix SQL injection data for an overview of the data dump. All right. And then I'll, for example, I'll create here, I'll do it like this, create a heading number 2, and I'll create a cross-reference link from this one here, down here, and down here, I will add the SQL dumps. So whatever data that I get from this, whatever, say for example, I'm extracting all the users, I would probably put all the users in a table down here so that I can reference it and I can answer questions when my customers are asking. They might be asking, was Bob a part of the users, part of the dump? Did you see the user account Bob in there? And I don't remember, so I'll just go down into the appendix and I will see it. Never include passwords in here, okay? You don't want to put passwords in your report. At most, you can share the first 2 characters, so someone might recognize the password, maybe share the length of the password, but you don't want to put clear text passwords in your reports. It is not cool, okay? You might see the reports are being leaked or they might be stored on network shares and so on. So that would be a problem for you. All right, that's it for this video. I hope you enjoyed my take on how to write pen test findings. I hope you found it insightful. If you have ideas on tips and tricks on how to write these reports or how you are doing this kind of job right now, how you basically, perform pen tests and write your findings, let me know in the comments below so that we can share that information and see what other people are doing. All right, I hope you enjoyed. Put a like on the video if you did. Subscribe if you want more videos. And I'll see you next time. Cheers, everybody. Bye-bye.